some students told Kuros, a first-year student and member of the health committee, that it was his turn to clean the infirmary again that day, sarcastically praising his reliability. In response, Kuros thought to himself that he had a weak character and was used to being bossed around, although he hoped that someday he could respond to them with firmness. On the other hand, the protagonist reflected that Hamiya Senpai was the famous and feared senpai from the rumors, and confirmed that she was indeed very scary. However, he considered that, since they were both part of the health committee, he sometimes had the chance to talk to her, as she often frequented the infirmary. Suddenly, Hamiya Senpai intervened in an intimidating manner, telling off those who were being a nuisance. Then, she looked at them coldly and warned them that she would kill them if they didn't leave immediately. At that, the students, including Kuros, apologized in fear. The protagonist, overwhelmed by the tension of the moment, shouted that he couldn't take it anymore and collapsed to the floor. Immediately afterward, Hamiya Senpai approached and, with a concerned tone, asked him if he was okay. Later on, she kindly asked Kuros if they had made him clean again that day. The protagonist once again thought it was inexplicable how Hamiya Senpai could be so kind to him. Despite the image everyone had of her, Kuros kept telling himself that Hamiya Senpai was feared by all, but for some reason, she was always kind to him. Then, she offered to help him clean, pointing out that they would finish faster that way. The protagonist remembered that she had already helped him the day before, which made him wonder if Hamiya Senpai was really as terrifying as the rumors said. The next morning, Kuros thought that the annoying students were bothering him again from early on. At that moment, Hamiya Senpai stepped in once more, stating that they were in the way and ordering them not to walk while taking up the whole path. As a result, the bullies shouted out their apologies. However, the protagonist thought to himself that Hamiya Senpai was scary after all, and took back his earlier doubts. Nevertheless, she immediately changed her attitude, cheerfully greeted him, and asked if he wanted to go to school together. Kuros, completely perplexed, wondered why she was so kind to him. At that moment, the protagonist recalled that in their school, there was a senpai feared by everyone, who was always kind to him. As they walked, Kuros felt people staring at them, so he internally shouted that this had to be a misunderstanding, since they had barely spoken outside the infirmary. With his face completely red, Kuros asked Hamiya Senpai directly why she was so kind to him. She looked at him, remained silent for a few seconds, and then, in a mysterious way, returned the question, asking why he thought she was. The protagonist was completely overwhelmed by that answer and wondered if perhaps Hamiya Senpai could have feelings for him. Stammering, he asked what that meant, while Hamiya Senpai smiled and let out a slight laugh. With a big smile, she took the initiative and told him they should hurry, since he always cleaned the infirmary. As she rushed and pointed out that the bell was about to ring, Kuros followed her. He then thought that he felt lucky just to walk to school with her, though he admitted to himself that he felt both like he was winning and losing at the same time. As they walked together, another student ran by and bumped into Kuros. He just quickly apologized, claiming he was in a hurry. Immediately, Hamiya Senpai got angry, confronted the student, and yelled at him, saying that he had been the one to bump into Kuros and demanded a proper apology. The student, visibly intimidated, apologized repeatedly. Kuros, for his part, tried to calm things down, asking Hamiya Senpai not to worry so much. However, in his mind, he concluded once again that Hamiya Senpai was definitely very scary. Finally, Hamiya Senpai approached the protagonist, asking with concern if he was alright and if he hadn't gotten hurt. Kuros, relieved, laughed and thanked her, admitting that she had truly saved him. Shortly after, the protagonist realized that the fall had caused a scrape on his hand, which was bleeding a little. Upon noticing this, Hamiya Senpai took him to a park and asked why he wasn't washing his hands, to which the protagonist apologized. Then, she asked him to sit down for a moment and offered him some band-aids she had with her. While Hamiya Senpai treated the wound, Kuros thought that her hand was so soft and pretty, and blushed, thinking that such contact was too much for someone in their adolescence. Then, Hamiya Senpai told him he was all set and that it should be fine now. Seeing him nervous, she asked if it still hurt, but Kuros shouted that he was fine, embarrassed because he had stared at her for too long. At that moment, the protagonist thought that the band-aid she used was very cute. Despite all the help, they arrived at school 15 minutes late. The teacher, seeing them walk in, asked if they had gotten too relaxed now that the new term had started. Kuros apologized and said he had a good explanation, but the teacher responded that he didn't want to hear excuses. Finally, Hamiya-senpai, unfazed, told the teacher that if they were going to be treated that way, then the two of them would stay to clean after class. Hamiya-senpai was internally complaining that the teacher had the audacity to call her a brat head, and immediately apologized for being late, claiming that the teacher's shiny head had distracted her so much that she couldn't focus on what he was saying. In response to that comment, the teacher said that, before thinking about romance, students should focus on their duties. At the same time, the protagonist apologized to Hamiya-senpai for making her late because of him, but she casually told him not to worry about it. Kuros then thought it was amazing how Hamiya-senpai didn't even get intimidated by a teacher. Right after, Hamiya-senpai simply said, "Well," and confessed that it had been really fun coming to school with him, so in her view, they were even. Kuros was left deep in thought, concluding that Hamiya-senpai was both terrifying and adorable at the same time. After that, the two of them prepared to serve their punishment, cleaning the pool. Kuros thought he couldn't believe the punishment involved cleaning the pool, and admitted to feeling a bit bad about it. However, seeing her in sportswear, he couldn't help but think that she looked really cute. At that moment, Hamiya-senpai told Kuros to hurry up and start cleaning. The protagonist, startled, replied affirmatively, but deep down, he thought the punishment had definitely been worth it. As they cleaned together, Kuros reflected that Hamiya-senpai had been late because of him, so he shouldn't feel so happy in that situation. Even if she had said it was fun to come to class together, he wondered whether she might be upset about having to clean the pool. Suddenly, Hamiya-senpai asked Kuros if he was enjoying the cleaning, smiling and saying that an activity like that wasn't all that bad. Hearing her say that, the protagonist felt relieved, thinking she wasn't mad and that she was also incredibly kind. So, he replied that he was enjoying it too. In that moment, Kuros thought that Hamiya-senpai wasn't scary at all. In fact, she seemed super kind. He believed that since it was just the two of them cleaning the pool that day, it might give them a chance to talk a lot, and if he was lucky, even grow closer. However, he also thought that in reality, he barely knew anything about her, and wished he could ask her things like what she liked or what she usually did. Just then, other students showed up, complaining about how annoying it was to have to clean. One of them suggested that since there were so many people, they might as well play for a bit. Kuros felt disappointed, thinking that just when he was finally alone with Hamiya-senpai, the moment had been ruined. He also found them rather noisy and realized that, apparently, others had also come to help with the cleaning. Kuros then looked at Hamiya-senpai, who was sitting down and seemed either annoyed or deep in thought. He concluded that she was definitely angry about the interruption. Concerned, Kuros asked her if she was okay and offered to take care of the cleaning with just the two of them, since Hamiya-senpai didn't get along with those kinds of people. However, she dryly replied, "It's not that." Surprised and confused by her response, Kuros asked what she meant by that. He then wondered if maybe she also liked being alone with him. While Kuros was lost in those thoughts, the other students threw water at Hamiya-senpai, soaking her completely. The protagonist shouted in surprise, and the other students realized things were about to get ugly. Immediately after, Hamiya-senpai stood up with a serious, drenched face and told the guys to line up so she could kill them one by one. Clearly a threat of revenge. The students, terrified, apologized over and over again. The protagonist thought that Hamiya-senpai was still very frightening, and wondered what she had been about to say before they were interrupted. As the other students fled in fear and Hamiya-senpai complained that everything was a mess, she showed Kuros how her clothes and hair had ended up, completely soaked. The protagonist thought that when she said she would demand compensation, it didn't sound like a joke at all. Hamiya-senpai took off her soaked sweatshirt, commenting that there was nothing to be done about it anymore. Upon seeing that Hamiya-senpai was now only wearing a sports t-shirt that had turned transparent from the water, Kuros was horrified by the sight. Internally, he screamed that if she realized he was looking at her, he was as good as dead, and he had no idea where to look. Quickly, Kuros reacted by offering her his jacket to wear. She, surprised, asked why he was doing that, but then understood the situation and thanked him, accepting the jacket. Finally, Hamiya-senpai thanked the protagonist for caring about her and told him he was a real gentleman. Feeling her warmth and kindness, Kuros was both happy and relieved to realize that, fortunately, he hadn't sweated yet, so there should be no problem in lending her his jacket. In response, Hamiya-senpai told him they should change their attitude and get back to cleaning so they could finish quickly. Despite everything that had happened, the protagonist thought excitedly that he was finally alone with senpai. A little later, Hamiya-senpai asked him for a bucket, and Kuros immediately agreed. While going to get it, he wondered what that important thing was that Hamiya-senpai had been about to say before the other students splashed her. In the meantime, he watched her from a distance and thought about how cute she was. Suddenly, Hamiya-senpai turned around, put a finger to her lips, and said that what she was going to say was a secret. At that, Kuros, desperate, begged her to tell him what it was, but it was no use. Immediately after, Hamiya-senpai urged him to hurry up so they could continue cleaning. When the protagonist returned with the bucket, Hamiya-senpai accidentally splashed him with water while she was cleaning. He didn't get upset, and instead thought about how fun it had been to clean with her. Since the changing room was locked and no one else was around, Kuros decided to use the infirmary to change his clothes. However, upon entering, the protagonist was completely shocked and frozen by what he had just witnessed. Realizing what had happened, Hamiya-senpai turned to him with a disturbing smile and firmly told him that he better forget what he had seen immediately. Kuros, terrified, screamed that he was incredibly sorry and ran to hide behind the door. Despite his attempt to forget it, Kuros couldn't erase from his mind what he had seen. The next day, the protagonist felt overwhelmed and couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. He wondered how he was supposed to even look at Hamiya-senpai after that. Just then, he saw her approaching. She was wearing a hoodie and exuded the same intimidating presence as always. Determined, the protagonist told himself that all he had to do was greet her. He mustered up his courage, repeating to himself, "Come on, Kuros, you can do it. It's just a greeting, nothing more." Finally, he gathered enough bravery and greeted senpai, wishing her a good morning. However, Hamiya-senpai, walking with her hood up, walked right past him without replying. Kuros stood there stunned, wondering if she had just ignored him. Then, he collapsed emotionally, lamenting and screaming internally that he knew it. She was still angry about yesterday, and that this was the worst thing that could have happened. Back in the classroom, Kuros thought that he had just been getting his hopes up. He reflected that, after all, he was just the guy in charge of the health committee, and that he really didn't have any special relationship with Hamiya-senpai, the famously feared upperclassman. He acknowledged that she had been kind to him, though the reason why remained unclear. Even so, he thought that Hamiya-senpai was both terrifying and adorable. No matter what she might think of him, Kuros concluded that if he had made her feel bad, he needed to properly apologize. Also, he reasoned that, if things were as usual, Hamiya-senpai should be in the infirmary, so he decided to go and open the door. Upon entering, the protagonist found her sitting on a sofa. Nervously, he approached her and called her by her title. Hamiya-senpai took off her hood, smiled at him, and greeted him by name, asking if he had come to clean that day too. Feeling incredibly relieved, Kuros responded with a question, asking her if she wasn't mad about what had happened the day before. She, curious, asked why he thought that, so he explained that when he greeted her in the hallway, she didn't reply. Upon hearing this, Hamiya-senpai sincerely apologized and confessed that she had forgotten her contact lenses that day, so her vision wasn't great. She also told him she had her earphones in, so she simply hadn't realized he was greeting her. Finally, she told Kuros that she was sorry for making him worry. Kuros felt immense relief upon hearing those words. She reassured him that what had happened the day before had practically been an accident and that it hadn't been his fault. However, immediately afterward, in a serious tone, she added that if he didn't forget about it, she'd kill him. Kuros then thought to himself that Hamiya-senpai was acting just like always. Next, the protagonist confessed to Hamiya-senpai that he had been worried the entire time, thinking maybe she had come to hate him, just when they had finally managed to get along. Hamiya-senpai, glancing sideways at him, asked curiously if he was really that afraid of her hating him. Then she smiled and asked if he was that afraid of losing her. At that, the protagonist blushed deeply, completely embarrassed, covered his face, and shouted that it wasn't like that he didn't mean it the way she was suggesting. The next day, the protagonist walked alone down the hallway, visibly isolated, while around him, other students chatted excitedly about the messages they were exchanging through the Rhine app. When he checked his own phone, the feeling of loneliness was confirmed. He only had conversations with his family and a few discount notifications. With resignation, he lamented that no one besides his relatives ever messaged him on Rhine, and admitted that, since starting high school, he still hadn't made a single real friend. As he continued walking, his thoughts inevitably turned to Hamiya-senpai. He grew tense as he admitted to himself that he didn't even know what she thought of him. Just the idea of asking for her contact felt enormous and overwhelming. He imagined what Hamiya-senpai's Rhine must be like and, filled with insecurity, feared being ignored. It seemed entirely possible to him that she would simply leave his messages on read without ever replying. At that exact moment, Hamiya-senpai appeared in front of him. Kuros grew extremely nervous, but still managed to greet her with a timid "good morning." She, smiling naturally, called him by his surname and asked if he wanted to walk together. As they walked side by side, Kuros couldn't help but wonder why she always showed up just when he happened to be thinking about her. Even though he knew that, after the previous day's incident during the clothing change, Hamiya-senpai didn't hold a grudge against him. He kept repeating to himself that asking for someone's contact was something completely normal between classmates. However, before he could summon the courage, it was Hamiya-senpai who interrupted him, saying she had just thought of something. Then, holding her phone in her hand, she directly asked him if he wanted to exchange Rhine contacts. Kuros was left completely blushing and in shock from senpai's unexpected initiative. Seeing the look on his face, she asked if maybe he didn't want to, but he quickly denied any reluctance, assuring her that it wasn't like that at all. At that, Hamiya-senpai brought up the incident during the pool cleaning, where he had gotten exhausted and became unreachable, which made Kuros wonder if she was somehow noticing exactly what he had been thinking. Then, Hamiya-senpai said that since they were friends, exchanging contacts was the most natural thing to do. Kuros, surprised that she considered him a friend, admitted to himself that she was right, and thought about how happy that made him. So, they proceeded to exchange contact info. After doing so, she thanked him with a smile. The protagonist, curious, looked at Hamiya-senpai's profile and realized he had officially added her on Rhine. She, teasing him a little, pointed out that he didn't even have an icon set, which she found to be very typical of him. In turn, Kuros was surprised to see that Hamiya-senpai's profile said Mio and featured a sad bunny with piercings, along with a status that said she was slow to reply. Smiling sweetly, he said he had just discovered her first name was Hamiya. Then he added that, although he didn't know exactly why, just knowing her name made him really happy. Upon hearing that, Hamiya-senpai blushed intensely and covered her face, visibly flustered. Seeing her reaction, Kuros, concerned, asked if something was wrong. She then softly hit him and assured him it was nothing, asking him to get going already. Abruptly, the narration cut to a new scene that seemed to be a flashback or memory. In it, the protagonist appeared alongside a light-haired girl in casual clothes, while a third boy watched them seriously from a distance. Later on, while walking down the school hallway, Kuros overheard some students talking about Hamiya, a second-year student, mentioning how incredibly popular she was. His attention was immediately drawn in when one of them said that a friend had seen her smoking cigarettes, leaving him completely shocked. He wondered if that could actually be true and whether it wasn't something serious. Even though he tried to downplay it, he thought that, considering it was Hamiya-senpai, maybe the story could be true after all. Despite his doubts, as he approached the infirmary, he told himself that no matter how tough she might seem, it was hard to believe she'd get involved in something like that. Still, concern led him to decide to go ask her directly. When he arrived, he found Aya-sensei, the school nurse, and asked her if Hamiya-senpai had been there. Aya-sensei, affectionately calling her Hamiya-chan, told him she was out in the back courtyard. Grateful for the information, Kuros hurried to take a look. On his way there, the protagonist tried to reassure himself that the rumor about Hamiya-senpai smoking had to be baseless. However, when he saw her sitting with what looked like a cigarette in her mouth and a box in her hands, his entire body tensed in silent shock. Noticing him, Hamiya-senpai casually called out to him and asked if he wanted something to eat, offering him the contents of the box. Upon closer inspection, Kuros felt immense relief as he realized it wasn't tobacco, it was ramune candy. She confirmed that they looked very similar, crunched when bitten, and, laughing, admitted that she was totally addicted to them. As he watched her eat, Kuros thought that, regardless, seeing her enjoy the candy like that was just too adorable. He then admitted aloud that it wasn't surprising Hamiya-senpai was often misunderstood, and confessed that he had, in fact, heard a rumor that she was smoking. In response, Hamiya-senpai calmly explained that people often made up all sorts of rumors about her, and that she no longer cared, she just let them say whatever they wanted. The protagonist, relieved, told her he was glad to hear that, since he had honestly been worried about what to do if she really was smoking. Continuing the conversation, Hamiya-senpai asked him what he would do if she did tell him she smoked. Kuros became visibly nervous at the thought, but she broke into laughter and assured him she was just joking. Moments later, Kuros asked senpai if she liked koi fish, mentioning that he had often seen her feeding them in the back courtyard. She explained that it wasn't exactly that she liked them, but rather that she often wondered what those creatures might be thinking. Then, in a casual tone, she commented that sometimes she wondered what they would taste like. That comment made Kuros feel a little scared. Eventually, the two sat in a slightly awkward silence, but the protagonist told himself that he couldn't just stay quiet, that this was his chance to be useful to senpai. So, he quickly looked up information about koi fish on his phone. When he found something, he exclaimed that koi meat, if properly prepared to remove the smell, had a good texture, was delicious, and was typically eaten in miso soup or boiled. Upon hearing that, Hamiya-senpai became annoyed and apologized for her earlier comment, admitting that she didn't actually want to know that much about how to cook koi fish. She also complained that Kuros didn't understand her jokes, adding that Kansai humor was hard to grasp. Meanwhile, the protagonist thought that senpai might be capable of eating all the koi fish in the pond. The scene then shifted to Kuros' home, where he was startled when his older sister, Sora, age 20, suddenly interrupted him. She asked what was wrong and what he was watching. Then she asked if he was free that Sunday, already assuming he would be. She went on to explain that one of her friends had backed out of going to a movie, and so, to avoid wasting the ticket, he should go instead. Kuros, feeling a bit awkward, timidly suggested that Yumi, their younger sister, should go. But Sora clarified that Yumi, who was 14, already had club activities that Sunday, unlike him. So, Kuros asked what movie it was, and it was revealed to be a hardcore horror film. Sora said she had 2 tickets and added that, now that he was in high school, surely he had a friend he could invite. Shortly afterward, the protagonist was shown sitting alone, staring at his phone. On screen was his Rhine chat list, now showing Hamiya as a contact, along with a folder titled Friends 10, suggesting that his social circle was starting to grow. Suddenly, Kuros jumped in surprise when an incoming call from Hamiya appeared. He thought it was impossible. There was no way he could answer that call. He told himself they weren't even close enough to hang out together yet, and that inviting someone out was just too much. So, he wondered if he shouldn't wait a little before replying. But the image of the horror movie and of senpai made him think that, if things ended up that way, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. At that very moment, he received a notification on Rhine from Hamiya-senpai, where she told him that Aya-sensei had announced there would be a committee meeting next week. She also added, Thanks for adding me on Rhine. That's when Kuros realized that Hamiya-senpai did see him as a friend, although he regretted that it wasn't the ideal moment to notice it. He wondered how it was possible for her to read his messages so fast, and at the same time, he was surprised, asking himself whether he should write something to her too. Finally, he concluded that, at that point, there was no turning back. While he was in his room, Kuros took his phone and decided to ask Hamiya-senpai if she was okay with horror movies. She, confused, asked why. Kuros, visibly nervous, explained that he had an extra ticket. In response, Hamiya-senpai teased him a little, asking what he was planning by asking a girl about her schedule. Embarrassed, he quickly denied having any weird intentions. Finally, to Kuros' surprise, Hamiya-senpai enthusiastically said she was free and invited him to go. Relieved by her acceptance, the protagonist thanked her warmly for inviting him and promised to message her later. Inside, he rejoiced at what he already considered a date, thinking it was a big deal and sincerely thanking his sister for giving him the extra ticket. At the same time, Hamiya-senpai was lying on her bed, blushing and looking flustered, thinking that none of this could be real. Later that same night, while Kuros was still at home, he was surprised by the sudden appearance of his sisters, Sora and Yumi. Without wasting time, he asked what clothes he should wear for the date on Sunday, which left both of them speechless, as they couldn't believe their brother was talking about a girl. Sora, excited, said that having a good sister had its advantages and immediately offered to help him choose an outfit. She also added that it had totally been worth giving him the ticket, so he could go out with a girl. However, Kuros hastily denied that it was what they were thinking and quickly changed the subject, asking if they would really help him. At that, Sora told him to leave everything to his sisters. Still, the protagonist couldn't help but feel embarrassed by their involvement and asked them not to make fun of him, defensively questioning what kind of outfit they thought he would wear. Upon seeing the outfit he had picked, his sisters were surprised. Sora acknowledged that it had been brave of him to ask for help. As a cosmetology student, Sora offered to cut his hair, style it, and teach him how to groom himself, arguing that now that he was in high school, he needed to look good. Kuros sincerely thanked her, and Yumi commented that, in the end, simplicity was always best. Then, Sora told him that he looked like her, that he had a cute face, and that he should go with more confidence. She also explained that when a girl agrees to go out, it's not just to pass the time, but because she wants to see that person. She told him that girls get ready, prepare themselves, and think about 1,000 little details. In other words, that a girl devotes a lot of time just to meet up with someone. As a final piece of advice, Sora told him that, even though she didn't know exactly how he felt about the girl, if at any point he thought she looked pretty, he shouldn't feel embarrassed and should say it clearly. The protagonist nodded and admitted she was right, though his sister laughed and said she didn't believe he could actually say something like that. More nervous than ever, he thanked her for everything, and Sora announced that it was time to go to bed. Finally, the day of the date arrived. Kuros got to the meeting place 30 minutes early, thinking his nervousness was completely obvious. While waiting, he reflected on the strange advice his sister had given him and thought that it was the first time he would see Hamiya-senpai outside of school. Then, he couldn't help but wonder how she would show up. Next, there was a scene where Hamiya-senpai appeared in his imagination wearing 3 different fashion styles, one with a cardigan and glasses, another with a bodysuit and a cat-eared hat, and a third with a sweatshirt and skirt. This made the protagonist question whether the outfit he had chosen was really the right one. Finally, Hamiya-senpai arrived at the meeting point and greeted Kuros cheerfully. He reacted with surprise upon seeing her, thinking about how cute she looked in casual clothes. Laughing, she commented that he had arrived way too early, reminding him there were still 20 minutes left before the agreed time. Clearly nervous, Kuros replied that he had messed up the time, but pointed out that she had also arrived quite early. To that, Hamiya-senpai explained that she had taken the wrong train, which was why she got there ahead of time. Smiling, Hamiya-senpai asked if it was okay to go ahead and head out already, and added that she was counting on him for the day. Still nervous, the protagonist nodded and assured her that it was fine. Internally, he was telling himself to make an effort so the conversation wouldn't become awkward. He also reflected that it was the first time he had ever seen Senpai in casual clothing, and he couldn't help but think that she looked so mature and beautiful. At the same time, he wondered if it was really okay for someone like him to be walking beside her. As they walked together, Kuros asked Hamiya Senpai if she usually watched movies or did things like that. She replied that she only did so sometimes. Immediately after, Kuros asked another question. He wanted to know if she usually went out on her days off, or if she had any specific activities. However, she answered that, generally, she stayed at home. Eventually, the protagonist tried to pick the conversation back up by commenting that he was really looking forward to the movie. However, when Hamiya Senpai didn't respond, he grew frustrated, feeling that the conversation wasn't moving forward at all. He also felt that, for a while now, her vibe had been rather intimidating. At that moment, Hamiya Senpai apologized and said she needed to use the bathroom. Later, inside the movie theater, Kuros began to feel increasingly nervous, wondering if he had done something wrong. After all, not even 15 minutes had passed since they met up, and the atmosphere already felt tense. That thought made him doubt whether Hamiya Senpai really wanted to come on the date. He also regretted not being able to focus on the movie. When he turned to look at her, the protagonist noticed that Hamiya Senpai had been quiet for quite a while and wondered if she was alright. However, the horror movie continued, and he thought that what they were watching was actually pretty terrifying. Suddenly, he felt something move beside him. When he looked over, he saw that Hamiya Senpai was visibly trembling, clearly terrified. He then wondered if she was truly scared of horror movies. With a shaky voice and sweating, Hamiya Senpai confessed that she actually couldn't handle that kind of movie at all. Concerned, Kuros asked if she wanted to step out for a moment, to which she immediately agreed. Once outside the theater, the protagonist took her by the arm and quickly led her out, telling her they needed to get away from there as soon as possible. Outside, seeing how distressed Hamiya Senpai looked, Kuros asked if she was okay. Still shaken, she apologized for making him leave the movie halfway through. Then, she offered to pay him back for the ticket, but Kuros quickly assured her that it wasn't necessary. Looking down, Hamiya Senpai apologized again and said it was all her fault for not mentioning her fear earlier. In response, the protagonist told her that he didn't know she was afraid of horror movies either, and he sincerely apologized for having invited her to something like that. Still worried, Kuros asked why she had agreed to come on the date if she already knew she couldn't handle those kinds of movies. Without hesitation, she replied that she wanted to come, and that was all. Then, she asked if there was anything wrong with that. With his face completely red, Kuros told Hamiya Senpai that he was really glad she had come that day. Then, Hamiya Senpai confessed that she felt bad ending the date like that and asked if he would like to hang out a little longer. The protagonist accepted enthusiastically, thinking to himself that he had no idea Hamiya Senpai was so sensitive to horror, and that, in fact, she looked adorable in that state. Smiling, he suggested they go somewhere else.